Welcome back to He's a Giant, a pod about all things college football and all things football. I am your host, Sal, here with my co-host, Monty. What's going on, man?
What's going on, dude? We're winning. We're a winning football team. We are no longer defeated. We have a win. Feels good. We're back. Victory Wednesday.
Chris is here.
There we go. Chris was waiting. He just wasn't giving us crap yet. Yeah, man. A lot of excitement about this week. A lot of some disappointment. We'll get into that. But overall, the vibes are high.
Yeah, no, it was really incredible to watch Jackson Dart play his first game. Immediately, you could tell stadium was rocking. People were pumped to see their new franchise quarterback. Kid came out, did not disappoint. First drive, they drive right down the field, put it in the end zone on the Jackson Dart run. Just incredible. Take the lead, and they just held on after that. And, not a perfect game, but, facing a tough defense. I mean, we talked about Jesse Minter is going to be one of the hotter names in the head coaching cycle, we think, this upcoming year. He is a Wink Martindale disciple, kind of a new generation Wink, where instead of bringing a ton of pressure, what he does is he disguises his coverage. And really tough on quarterbacks because he keeps changing looks pre and post snap, and it's hard for quarterbacks to get a read of what's going on. Definitely tough on a young quarterback. First game for any rookie would be tough against any defense. That defense in particular was tough, and I'm sure Minter was trying to bait Jackson Dart into mistakes. And, to his credit, wasn't a perfect game by Dart, but he did not make any major mistakes. He didn't turn the ball over, didn't throw any picks. Had a couple, had put up points. I mean, yes, the defense balled out, and we should get to that, but Dart did not make mistakes, and he added a lot of juice to the room, and credit to that kid, man. 1-0 in the books.
Yeah, it's a hell of a start. He mentioned it drove right down the field. There's a lot we need to learn about Jackson Dart still, but we did learn, that confidence that he shows, people in the team mention it. It's infectious, and you could see it was infectious with that team. And that was just one part of it. His athleticism, it brought a different aspect to that game, especially with, Minter wanted to run that too high, and he just absolutely killed it with his legs. So, that's going to be the interesting thing moving forward is, they did what they needed to do to beat Jesse Minter's defense, which is a very, very tough defense to do. But how are they going to adjust versus different defenses? That's the question. The other guys aren't going to be quite as creative. So, is he going to take more chances and, might end up with a couple turnovers? But I think that's something they want to avoid. Is he going to get, can he avoid getting sacked as much as he did? Because he was kind of causing his own sacks. That's part of it. And I want him to, really drive the ball more into tighter windows moving forward. There was definitely opportunities he had to get certain passes, and he really was more just looking for the running lanes. And overall, I think he played well, especially he's a rookie in his first start versus a really tough defense. But what's next? Where we go from here? And I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's one game. Mm-hmm. I think the goal of any game is just create a game plan that can win the game. And if you asked me before the game, would I take 21 points and no turnover from Jackson Dart, even if the passing line didn't look amazing? I would have signed up for it 100 times.
Yep.
And said, look, this is a defense that's trying to get you to turn the ball over, and as long as he doesn't, that's fine. I think part of the reason he took sacks, other than just the speed of the game and learning NFL defenses, is he looked into coverage that was confusing. I think a lot of quarterbacks do with that defense. Mm-hmm. And rather than force the issue, he just either tried to look for a running lane or he just took the sack, which, there's something to be said for that. It's not great, but it doesn't give up points. And good start. You definitely want to see him expand on that. He's not going to see a lot of defenses like that. They're not going to be a lot of defenses that play that kind of disguise coverage to the degree that Minter puts out there. The secondaries might look more vanilla to him going forward, and we'll see how he reacts to it. So, really good start. That's all I'll say. Good start. 1-0 in his 14-game season coming up. Bad news, you lose Malik Neighbors for the season to a torn ACL.
Yep.
I don't want to get into the whole turf battle thing, but unfortunately he's out, and the Giants are going to have to find a way to add some depth to this room and figure out, how they're going to space out these targets. But it's going to be a challenge both for for Dable and Kafka and for Dart to figure out how he can run this offense without the best player on offense.
Yeah, man, that's definitely going to be a challenge, and we kind of mentioned, like I mentioned, like he really had those running lanes, and it was because they were playing that too high. And are those running lanes going to be available as much when you don't have neighbors on the field that you have to worry about that? But there's the other aspect of we have a QB who's kind of learning to play the game, and maybe there's an idea of, hey, you're not going to have a guy that we want you to force the football to, that wants you to force the football to him, all the above. You're going to have to move the ball around. You're going to have to get it to all your targets. And, that's something that it's important for a quarterback to know and learn. So would I rather neighbors here? Absolutely. Am I extremely upset that we lost him? And, obviously it's always a worry when guys get hurt, especially when somebody's as athletic as him, about what level they return at. All that's, thoughts in the back of my head here. But, it's Jackson Dart's turn to step up and, take it from here.
Last quick bits on the offense before we head over to the defensive side of the ball. Cam Scatterbull, what can you say? This guy is out of his freaking mind. He clearly, I think you said to me before the season, he's going to invent new forms of CTE. He's definitely ridiculous. Throws that insane block to spring Dart touchdown run. Plays like a lunatic. I love this guy. I mean, we kind of knew that fans would love him, but just to see him in a Giants uniform playing the way he does is awesome. I mean, he's clearly like the most important playmaker on the team right now with Malik Neighbors gone. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see how they build off it. But he and Dart seem to have a special bond. I won't name it, but it's something. But they're good together though.
They got a chemistry for sure. Yeah. Did you see the video I posted? It was like when Jackson Dart ran up Q Power. It was like Water Boy playing, putting down the block.
It's awesome. But the story of this game, man, before we get to the edge room, which is what we're going over today, everybody, the story of this game was the freaking defense. And talking about edge rushers, holy shit. This game, number one, before we get to the edges, Dex is back. There's a lot of people worried about where's Dex, what's going on with Dex. He's back. Just all he do is put on that freaking RoboCop armor on his elbow, and he was just fine. And he dominated this game. Just was just wreaking havoc all game long. Couldn't be blocked, and then of course fights through a double team, bats a ball in the air, intercepts it, and runs 30 yards down the field towards the end zone and just barely misses a touchdown. Just a freak of all freaks. Hit 17 something miles per hour. That massive human being running. Dex is back, and then of course that set up. I mean, what a game for our edge rushers, Monty. I mean, I think the total number of pressures was 20 between the three of them. Yeah, right. I think it was ridiculous.
I think so.
So I think it was 8 pressures from Abdul Carter in one game, ridiculous. 6 each from Kayvon and Burns. I think a total of 3 sacks between them in this game, something like that. But I forgot how many QB hits, a ton of QB hits, but they were all over Herbert, man. They were just beating the living shit out of him and dominating that O-line of the Chargers, which, they're banged up and they're missing bodies. I understand that. But even when Joe Alt was in the game, Kayvon Thibodeau was basically bullying him, which is, I mean, you remember when Kayvon, when he first came up, people were, the knock on him was he would dominate bad tackles and couldn't do anything against like regular tackles. He went up against one of the best tackles in the NFL and was bullying him before the dude got hurt.
Yeah.
The Giants have a special defense, man. They have a special edge room. And I mean, we're going to go over these kids today, but you got 3 of them who are outstanding. Don't let them walk out of the building as far as I'm concerned. Figure out a way to keep them all here.
I agree with you. We're going to talk about this edge class, and maybe if you're in a position and you want to draft these guys, we can have that discussion. But until you're kind of forced into making a decision like that, because you just, have a bounty of good edge rushers, I'm perfectly fine having as many edge rushers as we can deploy on the field, and we can do it with 3 at least. We've done it plenty of times before in this franchise history, and we're doing it now. And I would happily lock up Kayvon Thibodeau. I think maybe he's not supposed to be the 1. Maybe he's not even supposed to be the 2, but him as a 3, it's pretty freaking elite right now. And once Joe Alt went out, they absolutely started teeing off on this O-line. I mean, it felt like Herbert was pressure on like almost every snap. And honestly, credit to Herbert, because there was a lot of times where he should have been sacked more than he was. He was able to get the ball off and throw it away. Even one time it was an intentional grounding that didn't count as a sack, but they were hitting him. They were getting him in the backfield. They had 12 QB hits this game. 12. I mean, they were absolutely teeing off on this guy. And I'll say, I think you started to see a flash of the greatness that Abdul Carter is going to be. I think one stat that's really telling with him is you look at his speed to the quarterback over this year. It's like number 2 in the NFL. That's just something that you can't teach. That's not something that you can just grow and get better at. It's just something that you inherently have from the athleticism that you bring to this. And Abdul Carter will continue to grow as a more consistent pass rusher that can continually, get after the pass rusher and get continuous sacks and whatnot. But there is going to be a few times every single game where he's going to be in the quarterback's lap before he even knows what to do.
Yeah, no, pretty impressive stuff, man. But anyway, a great game. Get a win out of it. And the question is, can you keep the momentum going? They've got the Saints on Sunday, a team that they should match up reasonably well against, who are playing, Spencer Rattler and a team that's really on track right now to potentially have the number 1 overall pick, still winless. So they're actually favored against the Giants now, which is kind of funny. Weird things are going on out there, but bottom line is it's a game the Giants can win. And I think we're going to see, I do expect to see more of that pass game with Dart open up in this game. It's a very different type of defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be, they got out of a game with a much needed win. And now it's going to be like, all right, like, we got to get this offense going. We got to see how much Dart can expand it. And, the Saints are going to be a good first step for that.
All right. Do you want to get into this episode?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. So we're going over edge rushers today. So, I mean, we just talked about all the edge rushers we already have. So do we really need one? The answer is, of course we do. You never have enough pass rushers, right? You never have enough defensive linemen.
And I'll say, we said we weren't the highest on adding Abdul Carter to this room. Obviously, we were happy to do it because he was best player available where it is. And that's just, that's a philosophy you do at that point. But we didn't really know what his fit was with 2 kind of smaller guys and what that's going to do to our run defense. And you've seen a little bit of that. There is an aspect of that that's shown up, and hopefully a guy like Abdul Carter can continue to grow and get stronger. But the good thing is this class has a lot of big defensive linemen who, if we, we'll see where they end up getting drafted. We'll see where we're willing to draft one, but these are the type of guys that I would like to add to this room, whether that ends up being a replacement for a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, which I'm not necessarily advocating for, but we'll see if, that's just how the cards play out, or just adding a 4th guy to this room, man. Just adding a guy on running downs who can be your edge setter.
No doubt. I think you can never have enough of these guys, and just, the best teams just bring them in waves, right? So it doesn't mean you have to take them in the first round, but there's some good guys in this class who I think will fit. And they may be there on day 2. Maybe some of these guys get to day 3. You never know. You know how the college football season plays out. So per usual, we're going through 5 guys that we picked out. These are not necessarily like the top 5 guys. These are not necessarily going to be guys who go 1 through 5 at the end of the season. Just 5 guys that we found very interesting, that we thought were worth reviewing. Some of them are top pedigree. Some of them are guys who may not be taken and viewed as highly, but they all bring a little bit of a different kind of a game to the draft. So we did our usual grading system. We'll get into it as we go along. I don't know. So I think I'm looking at our grades, and the guy we were talking about, I think graded out as just before the show. The guy that we were discussing graded out at like 3.
Yeah. So you take 1.
So why don't I take 1? Because I'll do him too. I'll do him number 3. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So our edge 1 in this class really should come as no surprise to anybody watching college football this year. The dude has been an absolute menace in college so far. He's a wrecking ball, and that's Rueben Bain from University of Miami. 6'3", 275 pounds. This guy is a monster. Just listen to the size of this guy. 6'3", 275. He is massive. Powerful rusher with massive heavy hands. Just a speed to power guy right off the rip. He's explosive and drives guys off the block. Big club move. Sets a strong edge. Very, very good and disciplined edge run defender. Uses every bit of his frame and his strength to stack and shed and take down runs that are trying to get to the edge. He's a good tackler. He doesn't really miss anything. He's disciplined. Plays like an off-ball linebacker when he's defending the run. It's very impressive. And when it comes to attacking the quarterback in pass rush, he's smart. Like, he doesn't lose contain, yet he's explosive and fast enough to get to the quarterback, get past offensive linemen, use his speed to power to get into the backfield. And not it's amazing. He gets pressure, gets quarterbacks in trouble, but doesn't give up rushing lanes, escape lanes. Really impressive kind of stuff, advanced stuff. Despite his size, he's quite the athlete. He's agile. He's really fluid. You see him bend around the edge. You see him fall back into coverage sometimes when he needs to. You see him cover a lot of ground. Again, sometimes like an off-ball linebacker, despite his size. He's versatile. You can play him all over the line. And something we look for in these guys is how do they close out games? This is important for edge rushers. And this guy is a closer. He's a closer's closer. Plenty of reps on tape. Or end of the game, he turns up his A game and he's destroying offensive lines, taking down quarterbacks. If there are cons, and there's not a lot of them, I don't think he's a super explosive guy right off the snap the way some of these first step guys are, the quickness guys. That's not his game.
It's not Abdul Carter.
No, he's not like that. And for as good as he is in the pass rush, this is not an advanced, refined pass rusher, right? Like, think of like a guy like James Pierce last year who had he had quite a few moves. Or
like a lot to from a couple years ago.
Right. He's not that, right? He's more of like a speed to power guy, disciplined in many ways. And don't take this the wrong way, but there's a lot of Trayvon Walker coming out in this guy in the way he wins with athleticism and power right now. He could develop more moves. He's a little bit slow sometimes in play action, and when there are some misdirections, but there's not a lot of negative overall in this guy's game. I mean, he's a power edge. He can destroy the run game. He eliminates rushing lanes and escape lanes for quarterbacks, and he will win with power and dominate at the line of scrimmage and develop. I mean, he's just going to generate a ton of pressures and sacks, and he's got that it factor as an edge rusher. He's a closer. He gets out there and ends games. There's not a lot to not like here. This guy is awesome. So he's our edge 1, and he graded out fantastic for us. But before we get into that, what are your thoughts on Rueben Bain?
Yeah, man. I think you kind of nailed everything. He is such a good all around player. I'll even just kind of touch on your cons and just kind of how the cons don't even end up being that bad of a thing. Like we talked about, like his first step quickness is not elite, but but it's really good. And look, it's size, man. It's just at the end of the day, he's not going to be your James Pierce, your Abdul Carter from last year. He's not Von Miller, but for his size, this guy he's a very athletic. He's not, we were just talking earlier how Abdul Carter has that inherent ability to get to the quarterback faster than anybody in the NFL. That's not his game, and that's okay, but he's still going to be like on the upper threshold of things. He's going to be above that 50%. Like very, very good athlete, very quick off the line. Like his limited pass rush repertoire. There's certainly things he brings. You mentioned like really good bull rush. He has a really powerful club move that he just knocks these guys off balance, man. Like I see him sometimes just really use when a guy starts leaning or putting his weight forward. He's good at getting them and putting them where their weight is. He's very strong and knows how to use a guy's weight against them and use their momentum against them. He just, he's not a finesse rusher yet. He doesn't really have as much of the counter moves, but that's some of the stuff we kind of said. It's almost opposite about what we said about Abdul Carter, but it gives a guy room to grow. Like that's it's this guy is this good already, and he can get better. Like that's the cool part. And I'll even say with he can sometimes mess up the play actions, and he can get kind of messed up with misdirections, but it's also just because he plays so damn aggressively, man. He plays with such a high motor that he's pretty disciplined, but you can get a misdirection here and there because he's going after the guy so hard. I really, really loved watching this guy play football. And, just to get into some of these PFF grades, I have them up on the screen, just get an idea how good this guy has been so far this year. 92.3 pass rush grade, 92.6 run defense grade, a 28.9% pass rush win rate, insane number, and a 12.7 run stop rate. Again, a really great number. Again, like something you touched on, he's a really good tackler. That's one thing I almost was most impressed about him is he's so good at just, he can make these arm tackles where if he gets anything on the running back, just get a hand on him, get an arm on him, he's bringing them down. Like he just needs to be near them, and he gets the tackle. And you don't see that often. He is a total difference maker.
He's ridiculous. I think easily edge one. It's going to be hard to see anybody pass him as the season goes on, just with the way he's already performing and just his physical traits and the way he plays. It's hard to see anybody being more desirable than him in the draft at the edge position. There's still time, but I mean, this is screaming top 3 pick, right? Like it's just screaming top 3 pick.
It's screaming unless there's a quarterback, which there hasn't been a lot of great quarterbacks so far this year. This guy is. I don't know how you pass on him.
Right. Let's get to the scores. And we basically had almost identical scores, a slight difference, but for the most part, I mean, I'll tell you right now, we don't give a lot of guys scores like this. This is incredible. So the first category is explosiveness and quickness. That speaks for itself off the snap. We both gave him a 4. Not much else to say there. Easily could have been a 5. I think just want to see a little bit more of it, but he has the juice to even be higher than that. Hands and pass rush moves. You mentioned the club move. He's got big, strong hands. Like he does, once he gets his hands inside your chest, it's kind of over. Like the tackles have a hard time like getting rid of this guy. His hands are quick. They're
really
good
block shedder.
Yep. So we both gave him a 4 there. Bend and flexibility. For a guy his size, he can bend like Abdul sometimes. We both gave him a 4.
Yeah, I was surprised once he really, put his ears back and they let him loose. I was like, oh man, this guy's got some bend.
Absolutely. Strength and power. We both gave him a 5. Like we don't give 5s that often. But just watch him play. He is a force. Like he is the most powerful man on the field pretty much all the time. And that it's impressive to watch him play.
It so well.
And he knows how to use it. Disruption in the pass rush and pressure. We gave him a 4. Run set, like edge setting and run defense. You gave him a 5 again. I gave him a 4 here. I could have given him a 5. I almost felt wrong to give him another 5. That's probably the reason I didn't. Drop coverage, you gave him a 2. I gave him a 3. I saw a few reps where they did do fake coverage where they would drop him back. I don't know if he's that kind of defensive lineman, but put it this way. If you had a defense where the DC called for him to drop into coverage, he's so athletic. I have zero doubt that he could drop back into coverage a little bit. So I gave him a 3.
That's fair.
And pad level, we both give him a 4. He's above average. I mean, he plays so low to the ground. He just generates so much power off his stance. So overall, we both end up with a 4. An overall 4. I don't even remember if we've given anybody a 4 anytime recently, but
yeah, not many.
That's a high grade. I mean, that's like we're looking at this guy and saying Pro Bowler, like literally right off the rip. This looks like a Pro Bowler, all pro type player.
Yeah, it's hard to get a 4.
Yeah.
That's a blue chipper for sure.
This is a blue chipper. The way he's playing, like it's hard to, at the position he plays with the versatility he has and the physical traits, it is hard to imagine there being more than 3 guys above him in the draft, right? It's like I'm not even sure who else it would be at this point.
Yeah,
he could be knocking on the door for first overall, depending on how the QB stuff goes.
and he hasn't played slouches. Like he played Notre Dame. Like I know Florida is not the best team, but he played Florida. He played USF's not a bad team. Like it's only 4 games, but he's been tearing it up.
Absolutely. So there you go, Rueben Bain. The Giants if the Giants have an utter collapse, but somehow manage to realize Jackson Dart is the dude, you know what? I know Jabri's in here. Just take Rueben Bain. Just take him. Figure it out. Just get him on the team. Just take him.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, that's one of the players. Like, look, if that's who we're in position to take, and you can't, and you got to move Kayvon for whatever reason, I would do it for a guy like Rueben Bain.
Just get them all on the field, man. Just put all of them on the field. Figure it out. Get a Jesse Minter or some brilliant defensive mind to work with these guys. I mean, it would just strike so much fear in the heart of offenses. We already strike a shit ton of fear in offenses right now. What they're watching on the Giants defense, adding a guy like Bain, I know it's probably not going to happen, but man, like it's terrifying to think of the idea of this guy here. Like we might as well dream, right? Like it would be so much fun.
You can never have enough good pass rushers. At the
Absolutely,
end of the day.
Exactly. All right, let's go to number 2.
Giants fans know. All right. So we'll go into the next player here. The next player here is TJ Parker from Clemson. He is 6'3", 260. So again, another really big player. And I thought he was a really good athlete. That's one thing that first stood out to me. For a big guy, really good athlete. I thought he was really efficient at crossing the offensive lineman's face and penetrating inside gaps, even from like in a wide alignment. Or you see, even though I didn't think he's the fastest off the ball. Well, no matter what it was, he was really good at just crossing these guys' face and penetrating gap. He did it time after time again. Really disciplined run defender. I thought he was a guy who stayed true to his assignments. But once he got an opportunity to close, he had really good closing speed. As soon as that opportunity opened up, he could fire back. Just a really disruptive player. He was in the backfield a lot, mostly against the run. Like this is a guy who finds a way in the backfield and is a tackle for loss type guy. I thought he showed really good bend in speed to power. When they had him wide and rushing the edge, those are the 2 main ways I saw him win. He had a good speed to power with a bull rush, and I thought he also showed really good bend to use his speed and use some of that ankle flexibility, some of that bend, and get around and make a play on the passer. Overall that some of that flexibility and bend showed up in other parts. I thought this guy was probably the most. I don't know about you, but to everybody who watched, I thought this guy was the most impressive to me as a potential coverage guy. I thought he had really, really fluid hips.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really smooth movements. See, when they asked him to drop coverage occasionally, but he looks so natural at it, especially for a guy as big as he is. So, really just a good athlete. The only negatives I have on him, I mentioned it earlier. I felt he was inconsistent timing the jump. I thought he could be slow off the snap. I don't think it's necessarily an athleticism thing, because I do think he's explosive, but I just thought he was a little bit late at times. His aggressive play style can work against him at times, leave him out of position. I do think he's disciplined overall, but he can find himself out of position because of his aggressiveness at times. He has really strong hands, but they lack refinement. He needs to be able to be a better hand fighter and come with more pass rush moves, in my opinion, and consistently shed blocks in both phases of pass and run. And when it comes to that, I think he needs to work on some counter moves as well. But overall, a big, size speed freak at the edge position, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. Bottom line to me is he kind of does it all, right? This is like your all around edge rusher. Like if you're just looking for a versatile guy who can be powerful, who can be quick, who can drop into coverage, who's a really good athlete, he's good against the run, he's good against the pass, he's there playing 80% of the snaps, and just a solid pro for your team. year after year, I think he's your guy. If you're looking for like an elite pass rusher, I'm not sure he's there yet. I think he has the physical tools to get there, though. I think he's got all the traits, and I can see him developing it. And the way Dabo is coaching up his team this year, you got to wonder if he's being optimally coached. Like it's like this is a guy that I would take a chance on, and not much of a chance, but I'm just saying I would take the upside swing on this guy because he has all the raw traits, and he's already like his floor is a good player. His floor is a good 3-down player. A guy I was trying to think of a comp for him, and you know who he reminds me of a lot is a slightly younger, like an earlier in his career version of like a Jonathan Grenard. If you remember when Grenard came out, he was just a kind of an all-around guy, right? He wasn't like this elite pass rusher, but he was solid, right? He was solid in everything. And then he gets to Minnesota and he hits his stride, right? And he goes crazy with the pass rush and the pressures and everything. I think sometimes it's going to be situation dependent who your coach is, how they use you, but Grenard is that, he's a good player. He can kind of do everything, right? And I think they're similar size. I think Grenard's about 6'3", 260, 270, something like that. This guy's right around that same size. Just a good football player. And so elite, no, but really solid. And when we get into the grades, I think we'll see that. So why don't we jump into the grades real quick with this guy?
Yes, sir.
Explosiveness, we both gave him a 4. I think he is an explosive athlete. You see it. Pass rush moves and hands. I think I gave him a 3. You gave him a 2. I don't think, maybe I'm being generous. Wasn't super impressed, but I didn't think it was a huge negative. Is there a reason you thought he was just a 2 there?
I think it was kind of a little bit of everything. I think he struggled with counter moves. I didn't see a ton of moves with his hand. I felt like when he won, I felt like it was bull rushes and it was his bend. I didn't see him win a lot there with his hands. So that's kind of where I was at.
When it comes to and those are the next 2 categories. So bend and flexibility, we both gave him a 4. Strength and power, that's your bull rushes. We both gave him a 4. And he uses that in the run game as well. Mm-hmm. Disruptive and causing pressure, we both gave him a 3. He can, there's room to grow there though. Setting the edge and run defense, we both gave him a 4. He's very good at that. Coverage, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. I think he's capable of more. I think he is good at it. I just, again, I need to see a little bit more of it. I'm pretty conservative with my coverage grades. If you do it, if you don't do it at all, I can't give you much. If you don't do it a lot, I'm probably still giving you a 3. That's kind of how I am. But I can see why he would be a 4 here from an athletic standpoint. And leverage and pad level, we both gave him a 3. I think there are times where he gets up on he plays a little bit high, but for the most part, he's pretty sound technically.
Agreed.
So overall, we graded him out as I gave him a 3.5. We both gave him a 3.5. So above average player, I think with some upside to become like a Pro Bowl type talent down the road.
Yeah, he's a player that guys are going to want to bet on. I wouldn't like you mentioned Trayvon Walker. That isn't necessarily the comp, but that's just an example of like guys who need a little bit more refinement, but have that size and speed. Teams are going to bet on him.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to our third player here, who's graded out as number 3 for us, and that is, let me pull him up real quick. It is LT Overton, edge rusher from Alabama. It's a big boy, 6'5", 283 pounds. He is a former 5-star recruit, consensus 5-star All-American. He's a senior. Overton is a really interesting player. Right off the rip, you see the strengths of his game are that he's kind of a rare physical specimen, right? He's a big dude. He's all muscle. He's kind of like Trayvon Walker, actually, physically. There's a lot of these Trayvon Walker guys here.
Yeah, I mean, we're a lot of big guys we're talking about.
These are big, muscular dudes who are like chiseled frames. I'm kind of surprised he's not at Georgia because he looks like a Georgia player. But despite the dude's size and his strength, he's got explosiveness. He's got athleticism. He has elite raw traits. I think he has the most elite raw traits of anybody here. And with that, he's already a good run stuffer. He's really good at setting the edge. He's really good at stopping the run. He's really good at actually being fairly fluid and being able to run and catch guys. He's very good at rotating around the line. The Alabama moves him all over the line. And that's one of his strengths, is his positional flexibility. At his size and strength, he can be used kind of anywhere. he is really powerful at the point of attack, as you could imagine for a guy his size. He uses it well. He's always driving guys backwards, whether it's offensive tackles or guards. He's driving them backwards. When he moves inside and takes on these guards who are 30, 40 pounds lighter than the guy he was going up against before, some of them just look completely overwhelmed by his strength. And that's his strength as a pass rusher and as an interior D lineman when he's moved to that position. I think his motor can be a little inconsistent, but I think there's a lot of juice there. I'll put it that way. His hands are powerful. He knows how to use them. He deploys them nicely. I think he's a good hand fighter overall. And he has surprisingly good bend for a guy his size. Like, it's not elite, but the dude is he's massive. He's 6'5", 280, and he can bend around the edge. That's like, you don't see guys that size bending around the edge that easily. He's just, bottom line is kind of a positional nightmare, in terms of his strength and size and everything else and his flexibility. The weakness is he's basically kind of a jack of all trades using his raw strength. He doesn't have yet the fully developed arsenal that you want from an edge rusher to become like an elite pass rusher. And there are some technical refinements in his game, just how he lines up, his consistency play to play, counters, things that you talked about with some of the other guys, timing. It's just stuff that needs coaching, but he's got all the tools. So overall, this guy is a physical specimen. At his floor right now, the way I look at him, his floor is a versatile chess piece on your D line. Anything from like a wide 9 type edge all the way to, he can play nose tackle for you, and he can play it well, and you can line him up as a versatile piece. So on a team like the Giants, and this is why I brought him up and I have him, kind of graded highly. You have Dexter Lawrence and you have the other edge rushers. Having a guy potentially like him to move around and create like matchup problems is very intriguing to me. And I think that's fundamentally what you're looking for in a guy like this with projectable elite athletic traits. And I think that's going to be something very, very intriguing to coaches. As a player right now, his production is not where his traits are and where his projectability is, obviously. So he's not playing like a first rounder, Monty, but guys like him are going to go to the combine and do freakish shit. And they're almost always going to land themselves in the first round. So that's what I've got on Overton.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm going to, leave what you're saying about athleticism and kind of trust you on that. I was talking to you a little bit before the show. The game that I watched on him, he played with Florida State, and it was downpouring. You could see it on the screen even, and he was falling all over. It felt hard to gauge his athleticism in that game. So, I felt like I could learn a lot about him, but as far as athleticism goes, I definitely need to watch more to get a better idea of that. But I agree, he's a really, really strong, heavy-handed player who just has that pocket collapsing pushback power. He's really good in the run game. You really can't. He just holds the point of attack, and he's overall a good run defender. So he's versatile. Yeah, my only issues with him, you mentioned his motor. I felt like there was multiple times where I watched him, where he could have made a play, where he could have, finished off a run, maybe stopped the guy from getting an extra yard or two, and he kind of just waited back and let his teammates handle it. It wasn't like brutal not doing his stuff, but he's not that hair on fire player who's wants to be in every play. I prefer to have that, but I don't think he's like a bad, like takes plays off guy either. But I think it's worth mentioning. I thought he lost track of the ball in the backfield at times, especially like play actions and read options and stuff. I felt like he didn't have a good idea where it went. I saw that a few times. Just kind of lacks, then he's not much of a finesse rusher. He's a power rusher. Yeah. Kind of lacks some of those counter moves and what. But I agree. I thought he's a really good hand fighter. With all that said, he's a really good hand fighter. Keeps hands off him and really has that power to match. So I think he's a good fit for us, man. I don't know.
Actually, a very good fit for us. That's the thing about him.
I don't know where he'll go in this draft. But I think that he would be a great complement to what we have in
I
this
mean,
rush.
fundamentally, right now he's basically a 4-3 defensive end.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
exactly what I thought when I saw him. I saw he was like this guy, hand in the dirt, get him as a D end. I think that's his best place.
right, and you can move around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, newsflash. I mean, I don't know who the hell is going to be our defensive coach next year, but right now, the way we play, we largely play with 4 down linemen, on most reps. So, I mean, he would fit. So, just from a personnel standpoint, he fits. He's a guy that you can basically use as an interior guy next to Dex. You can line him out wide. He can be a depth piece on the edge of the room, and be kind of a more regular starter type in the on the interior. So, interesting character. I don't know where he's going to go. Like I said, I think physically gifted guys like this, former 5-star recruits who tend to be like solid in college and then test off the charts, they tend to find their way into the first round, right? And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he goes, but we'll see. Let's get to the grades. So explosiveness and quickness, you gave him a 3. I gave him a 4. I might be giving him the benefit of the doubt because I think I saw enough reps where this guy is just, he showcases his athleticism and his explosiveness, but I think I agree with you that it's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, you saw more than me, so I'm not totally sure there.
Hands and pass rush moves, we gave him a 3. I think he's just kind of average there. Bend to flexibility, you gave him a 2. I gave him a 3. I can see why you'd give him a 2. He's a little bit, he needs some work there.
Yeah, I mean, he literally couldn't bend in the watch the ball every time.
Yeah. Strength and power, though, he's a 5. Like this guy that's an elite trait of his, is his power. Disruption and pressure. My lights are going kind of crazy. I don't know what's happening here. Disruption and power, he's getting a 3, and run and edge defense, he's getting a 4. That's edge setting. Drop coverage, you gave him a 2, I gave him a 3. I could have given him a 2 here. You asked why I gave him a 3. There were a few plays where I saw them drop him back into like fake coverage type thing. And nothing crazy, but I think he has the athleticism to do it. So I gave him a 3.
Yeah, I just didn't see it at all.
In pad level, you gave him a 4. I gave him a 3. And I only gave him a 3 here just because sometimes he's inconsistent with his pad level. It wasn't. Again, there's some technical refinement this guy needs. I think there's a lot of coaching this guy needs. Overall, you gave him a 3.25. I gave him a 3.5. He ranked out as a 3.375, so above average. But there's physical upside here, which is why I think he's a little higher on our list. I think this is a projectable player.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. All right. Do you want to get into our next guy here?
Yeah. Why don't you handle 4?
All right. Let's go ahead and get our 4th guy. And, I know a guy that a lot of people are pretty high on. Kendrick Faulk from Auburn. 6'6", 285. Again, I'm telling you guys, there's a lot of big guys. We're not even necessarily just picking, the big guys because it's a match. We do that at times, but these are all like top 50 Brugler guys, like really high up on his list, and we try to prioritize that when we can. And, he's no different from that. Keldric Faulk is a powerful defender. Really good athlete. He uses arm length well, and he uses great leverage to win at the point of attack. I thought he's a guy who plays really low and uses his length, his leverage, and his power to really drive these guys back to time. He can really embarrass an offensive lineman at a time when he can get all 3 of those in phase. I thought an explosive first step that allows him to quickly penetrate gaps. That's one of the main ways I saw him win is that if he could get that first gap, kind of rip and get low on a guy, he could shoot that gap and get into the backfield. For a guy that big to be able to do that, you saw them play him inside a lot, and he could really do that against the guards, especially. Overall, just a disruptive pass rusher with a strong rip move. And he has a good ability to tempo his rushes. I thought that he could really set up the tackles when he's out wide and kind of get them off balance and make a move to get a pass rush. I thought he got his hands in the passing lanes often to affect the quarterback, and I saw him knock a couple down, even just get it close, attempt it. He's always kind of getting him up there. This guy is a high motor player. He's a guy who I saw make plays from behind. When if he didn't make it, maybe it's a touchdown. He's always there looking to make a play. Really strong at the point of attack and maintaining ground in the run game. Overall, is a versatile player. This might be, I think, maybe the most versatile. He was really strong inside. They had him really like a wide 9, like matched with like Bain. They have these guys really all over. My issue is I felt he's a guy who struggled a little bit with bend. I thought it eliminated effectiveness as a speed rusher. He didn't quite have the bend as some other guys we've talked about. I thought his counter moves are underdeveloped, and he could stall out when his initial move is stopped. That's why he kind of really needs to use his athleticism to beat a guy to the spot. But if he gets caught up, he sometimes struggle to get off a guy, and you can see that not only in his pass rushing, but also in run defense. You can see him really just get caught up if the offensive line can get both his hands on him. I thought he found himself out of position at times in the run game. It wasn't like bad. I felt like he was good at, kind of being where he's supposed to be, but he was, just off where, the play goes by him. He can't make a play on it. I saw that happen a few times, and I just, he's just missing these opportunities to finish the play. And, I wish he could, fight his way to get into the right position a little bit more. And I thought he was a good athlete, but he's not like an elite mover by any means. I thought some of the other guys that we've talked about previously are better. Before I hand it off to you, I'll say this was a Feldman freak guy. Did make the freak list. He's but more for the strength aspect. Squats 700 pounds and benches 415. So, what do you have him for?
I think you got everything there. I mean, I think the bottom line is, again, another physical freak at his size. Again, built like an interior D lineman. Plays as an edge essentially, with really edge level speed and explosiveness. And you see that, and he plays the high motor, but he doesn't have the flexibility, the bend, and some of the athleticism we're used to seeing from those real edge rushers. Like, when you think of a guy with bend, you think of Brian Burns, just flying around the edge and bending with like ankle flexion. That's not his game. Mm-mm. He's more of an angular pass rusher. He tries to get an angle up before the snap, fire off the snap, and win either by directly bull rushing the tackle backwards into the pocket, or just kind of going around him at an angle, as opposed to being able to like kind of drive him back with one arm and turn the edge with his flexibility. That's not his game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he has that ability in him. You just don't see it on tape. Usually when you don't see it on tape, guy his size, he probably doesn't have it,
He tries to do it is the thing. Like, that's what makes me worry is I see him, kind of make those moves. It's just he can't finish it and really turn that corner like some other guys.
Yeah, I mean, like size-wise, he's actually not that dissimilar from a guy like Latu. I think Latu was not that far from his size, if I recall, right? I mean, maybe Latu he was a little lighter.
Guy. Yeah, Latu was lighter, but Latu was a bigger guy. No. Latu wasn't as heavy as him. I'm saying he was a bigger guy, but I don't think he was as big as him.
Yeah, probably not the same weight,
Yeah.
But Latu had that bend, right? He had that closing ability. He had he doesn't have that one step. So I don't think he's quite the level of like a Latu. I agree with your assessment that he's probably a really good player and a bit of a rotational edge. He's a power rusher. And that's fine. I don't think that's a first round pick because I don't think he has first round pick ability there. But, he's being mocked as like a top 10, top 15 pick. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching him and I'm like, this is a really good player. Do I see a top 10 player? Probably not, and then I look at the way he plays on tape. See a really good run defender, solid edge setter, power rusher, but you don't see like that elite finisher, right? He's not a guy who finishes. He's not a closer of games. No. And then you look at his advanced metrics, and his pass rush win rate's only around like 14%, 13%. It's not bad, but it's not at that elite level that you would expect from like a top 10 pick, right? He's like 13, 14%. And when you watch him play, I think that's what you would expect, right? Like a 13, 14% pass rush win rate kind of guy. So, good player all around, powerful edge rusher, probably more of a rotational guy and a power rusher. I don't know if he's a 3-down edge. I think he might be a 3-down player if you use him with his positional versatility. But I think unlike a guy like Overton, who I think can more naturally play the interior positions, I'm not sure Faulk can naturally play the interior positions like Overton can. And so I actually don't think he's quite I think I'm not so convinced he can do that. I think he truly is an edge rusher, but that's kind of where I am with him.
I'll be honest. I think I almost liked. No, I don't necessarily think he's going to be an inside rusher in the NFL, but at the college level, I honestly think I liked his tape inside better than the edge because his pass rush move just at the edge. He wants to use that bend and it doesn't exist. While I think he could really use his athleticism to kind of beat these slower guards to the spot. I thought he was a little bit more successful there personally.
But is that more of like the rotational thing versus a guy who can really line up there? You know what I mean? There's a difference between those guys. If you're asking him to line up as a 3-tech, 60% of the game, 70% of the game, I'm not sure he can hold up there. That's my point.
But I don't. I don't necessarily know if I want any of these guys doing that. But yeah, I will say, to the point of kind of where I was saying, like, guy always in the right position, but not quite there to make the stop. If you look at run defense grade, 84.4, that's a very, very good number. But his run stop rate is only 6.9. I think that kind of speaks to it, where he's just he plays his gaps. He's in the right spot, but he's not making the play.
He wins but doesn't close, and I think that's sort of like the theme of his game.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the grades. He graded out well. I mean, not bad. Explosiveness, we both gave him a 3, and quickness, hands, and pass rush moves, we both gave him a 3. I think I gave him a 4 in explosiveness. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's say you have 4.
I did like his first step, and I gave him that for bend and flexibility. You gave him a 2. I gave him a 3. I think it's. We just talked about why he might be a 2. Again, I'm a little generous here for a guy his size. I'm kind of grading him on a curve with his size.
That's fair. Sometimes you got to do that a little bit.
Yeah, strength and power, he's above average. We both gave him a 4. Pass rush disruptiveness, we both gave him a 3. He's average there. Run defense edge setting, we both gave him a 4. He does set a very good edge. Drop coverage, you gave him a 2. I guess you didn't see him do it too much. I gave him a 3. I think.
Yeah, I thought he was stiff.
Yeah, he is stiff. I think he's okay though, dropping back. Again, to me, the drop coverage for these edge rushers is just kind of almost being like a hook defender. I don't expect too much more than that. And then pad level, I think he plays with surprisingly good pad level for a guy his size. So we both gave him a 4. He plays with good leverage. So overall, he graded out just a little bit above average at a 3.125 for you, 3.5 for me, 3.31 overall. So slightly above average player. I think there's a lot of juice there. I just don't know. Like, despite the grades, I'm not sure he's an immediate starter. I think he's more of a guy that you have to develop a little bit.
I almost feel differently. I don't like his upside, but he's a guy who I think he does most things well, and I think you could put him on the field. And I think he's just a good football player, but I don't think he has the traits to be a great one.
That's fair. All right, let's get to number 5. This guy, we were saving the best for last.
Yeah, you got mad at me in the spaces that we had this guy on the list.
So this guy, I did specifically for our friend Jabri because he loves this family of football players. This is his favorite family of football players. And this is brother of QB1 himself, Matayo Uiagalelei, edge rusher from Oregon. 6'5", 272 pounds, brother of DJU, who is now, I believe, on the Chargers practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. Former 5-star recruit himself. Big, tall dude. This is your big, monstrous, like long-armed edge rusher, and that's his strength. He has big, like pterodactyl arms, and he uses them effectively. Gets blockers off him, extends his arms, and kind of that's his move, right? His move is just get his hands on you and drive you backwards with his arm length and keep you away from his body. He has some pass rush moves. He has a little bit of a spin move. He does sometimes try to win around the edge with some quick rushes. And he's got good push. Like, he's a guy that can drive back with power in his size. Decent tempo, nothing, he's well coached. The negatives, though, there's nothing. When you watch him, you are not happy when you've seen some of the other guys because there's nothing explosive about his game. He looks almost slow, right? And he just looks slow off the line and kind of like a plodding edge rusher, stiff, doesn't have a ton of bend. The pass rush arsenal is limited. Like I said, it's just mostly just kind of hand fighting and pushing people back. Maybe one spin move, not much else there. despite his arms being long, his hand fighting, the jolt that he gets from his hands is not all that impressive. Like when you watch Rueben Bain, for example, like his hands devastate blockers. You don't see that with this guy.
Violent.
Yeah. They're just he just extends his arms, right? Like I think with like Uiagalelei, he just gets his arms out and he extends them. He doesn't do much with them. So he's strong and he's got the measurables, but not an overwhelming dominant player by any means. Overall, he's an edge defender who his calling card is his length and his wingspan. He is a good, strong rusher. He pushes back into the pocket. I think if you're using him for that purpose, he's pretty solid. But don't expect a great athlete. Don't expect a versatile pass rusher who's going to bend around the edge and offer you counter moves. He's more of like a collapse the pocket from the outside kind of guy. And he has the physical traits to be useful, but you gotta know what you're getting with him. I don't see him projecting as like a high level pass rusher at the NFL level. What did you think about this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it pretty well. I think he's a length driven edge. He plays with solid patience and leverage, and has that functional spin move, but he just lacks the athleticism and pass rush diversity of some of these higher level prospects we talked about. He can collapse the pocket. He has pretty steady push and keeps blockers off his chest with his long arms, but he doesn't really have the explosiveness or like the violence in his hands to really, be an impact player with his strength that he has. He has more of an anchor and kind of like that slow collapse. Overall, I think he could be like a sturdy edge presence. He's more of a rotational guy in my opinion. You can have more on rundowns. But he needs significant development, I think, if he's going to be anything more than that. And I do think he's limited overall as an athlete, so I don't know how much is there. We were talking in the space the other day. I was saying he's like almost like a less exciting of was it JT Tuimoloau, the Ohio State guy? It's like a less exciting version of him. He was already pretty boring. Like he's like a decent well-rounded player, but he's a lower end version of that, and that was already a kind of boring player.
Yeah, not a fun watch. Like I can see how again, this is to me he's scheme fit kind of person. If your defensive coordinator wants this length guy on the line, he's fine, right? I think he'll be good at that, and you got to know what you're taking, but you're not getting like this supreme edge rusher who can do it all. So he's very, I think, situation dependent. So scoring, explosiveness, and quickness, we both gave him a 2 for the reasons we just mentioned. Hand usage and pass rush moves, you gave him a 2. I gave him a 3, and I only gave him that, I think, because of his ability to use his length. And that's kind of it. Bend and flexibility, we both gave him a 2. Power and strength, he is above average. He's a strong kid. We gave him a 4. Disruption and pass rush pressure, we gave him a 3. That's just a collapsing the pocket, I presume.
Yeah, he's all. I mean, he gets a good bit of pressure numbers because he collapses that pocket. And he's there. He's actually pretty good there, but it's just not.
He has like a 16% pass rush win rate, so it's pretty respectable.
Yeah,
but that's how he does it. He just collapses that pocket. Run defense, he's very good. We gave him a 4. That's edge setting. Drop coverage, I didn't see much of it at all, and I'm not sure he has the athletic ability to do it. So I gave him a 2. I think that's the same reason you did. And then pad level and leverage, you gave him a 2. I gave him a 3. Again, I'm being generous for a guy his height and size. I think he did okay, but I know what you're saying. Like he does stand up straight a lot.
He's very stiff.
Yeah. Overall, I grade him out at a 2.875. You graded him out at a 2.625. Overall grade of 2.75. I think we're looking at this guy as a below average edge rusher, and I wouldn't be surprised if this guy slides to day 3.
Yeah, I mean, all the guys we talked about so far, other than him, I could see round 1. Kendrick Faulk, I mean, they kind of have to see a little bit more upside than I see him to do it, but it wouldn't totally surprise me. I wouldn't understand Uiagalelei at all in the first round at all, and I would struggle day 2 to really be excited about the pick. Maybe late day 2.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who are going to like this guy, right? And I think they're going to like the measurables and the length. I mean, Andre Patterson is probably the kind of guy who would like this guy, right? Because of the length and stuff. But I just don't see much there.
Yeah, I mean,
We're getting
look,
shit for we're getting shit about Deion Walker. I'm not taking shit about Deion Walker. No way. But go ahead.
the NFL agreed with us by the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, look, he has pretty good win rate numbers. That tends to translate. He's got good size. Like, I see why people could like him, but watch the tape. He's not a very flashy player, and that's putting it nicely.
Exactly. So that's our 5. I think that's 5 guys. I mean, they're not the top 5, but I think we like, again, this year, what we're trying to do is pick guys who we find to be not just like ranking 1 through 5, but interesting to discuss, right? Guys who might be able to offer intriguing options somewhere in the draft for the Giants. I mean, depending on where you're taking the guy. But if we are trying to cater it a little bit more to what we think are realistic potential options for the Giants. So, I mean, obviously Bain I think he's making a run for number 1 overall at this point. I'm looking at the total draft class and I'm like, who are your best players? I mean, I don't see a single quarterback standing out that's worth that pick. Maybe if Dante Moore declares it's him. But basically it's Caleb Downs and Rueben Bain right now as a racing to the top for the top player in the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rueben Bain has it on lock at this point right now. I think he's really, I mean, he's gonna have to drop off to not have that spot. He's such a rare player. I will say, so he said, like, I agree that's what we've been doing this year. In the case of, we look at Burgo's list, we actually pretty much were honest this year. Just was kind of a nice mix. There was only one player out of his top 6 edges. We did 5 of them. Do you want to guess the order Brugler had them in before, in the preseason?
Of our 5?
Of our 5.
Well, I'm going to guess he had TJ Parker number 1.
Nope.
Or was it Kendrick Faulk number 1? It was one of those two.
Kendrick Faulk, TJ Parker number 2.
Okay. He probably had Overton number 3.
Nope.
He had Bain 3.
Nope.
Don't tell me he had Uiagalelei 3.
He had Uiagalelei 3.
God, that's crazy. So he had Bain 4?
Nope.
Oh. Who the hell was 4?
He had Overton 4, David Bailey 5, and Rueben Bain 6.
Huh. We didn't go over David Bailey in this one. We didn't think he was,
he's a smaller guy. He's not necessarily fit, but I mean, to be fair, Rueben Bain passed David Bailey for sure. I mean, Rueben Bain had an incredible true freshman year. He had kind of disappointing second year, so I don't think that's totally like that crazy. That I personally thought Rueben Bain was a top 10 player going into the season, but that wasn't necessarily consensus. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Here's the numbers. Keldric Faulk, 5. TJ Parker, 9. Uiagalelei, 18. Overton, 23. Bain, 39.
I mean, look, so if somebody wants to take Uiagalelei, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah,
somebody wants to take that guy in the first round, God bless. I just hope it's not the Giants. Like that.
Matayo
Yeah, like I'm sorry. Like why is he? What makes him so different than like the art? Just the streams and streams of these like tall, long-armed edge rushers that go day 3 year after year. Like, how is he any different than those guys?
You want to hear something funny? Yeah, I actually said what I said earlier. I didn't read this before. He said, with his well-rounded skill set, Uiagalelei reminds me of JT Tuilamola, who led Big Ten in sacks in 2024 and was a second-round pick by the Indianapolis Colts.
But again, he was a second-round pick. I can maybe see that, but like, yeah, that's wild to me that he's that high. I don't think he's going to stay that high as the season goes on. Anyway, so I mean, it's a well-rounded room for the power guys, and there are definitely some fits here for the Giants. I think if you want to go get another power guy to put in as like a defensive end type, there's plenty of these types of guys, and depending on where you want to take them, you can never have enough pass rushers. All right.
And one guy, I want to get to at some point. There's too many good guys to kind of like go a sleeper. But the other Miami kid.
Yeah, we thought about going over him today, but we decided to stick with these guys for today.
There's Key Messador. He's actually a former West Virginia Mountaineer.
He's killing it this year.
Yeah, 91.4. Look, I mean, we haven't looked at him, but 30.7 pass rush win rate, 90.8 pass rush grade. Like, I'm excited to check this guy out and see, see what his grades.
I didn't want to go over him because he's 32 years old. So
leave him alone.
He's
24.4. All right,
he's a Nick Nash of edge rushers.
but another big dude, 6'3", 280.
He's as old as Kayvon. Yeah. No, he's having a good year. But he's lining up next to freaking Bain, like not even opposite him. He's lining up next to Bain on a lot of pass sets. Like he's benefiting from Bain being there, and he's an older player. I think I just want to see it for a whole year and see how this guy performs later. And but he is interesting. He's definitely more interesting than Uiagalelei. I will say that. Yeah. All right. So that's our edge room. Don't discount it, right? I think that's a take home here. We have 3 amazing edge rushers. Do not discount the Giants taking another edge rusher at some point, even high in the draft, because you can never have enough of these guys. And having high quality edge rushers at minimum means you just have a stable of high quality pass rushers. But it might mean that you have the flexibility to make trades and get high value return on somebody if you wanted to move someone. So don't discount the possibility that they may just look at their draft board when the time comes, depending on who the GM is and who the coach is, and say, I could take a wide receiver here, but I want Rueben Bain, or I want whatever, like don't discount that possibility.
The reality is, dude, our run defense is still bad, and we have a very light edge room, and it would help to get a bigger guy into that room. That's just the reality of it.
Absolutely. All right. It's an interesting group. I'm going to be curious how these guys shake out. Let's go over the games coming up this week in college football, because we are way ahead of schedule. Amazing. So college football this week, Friday, there's only one game you guys have to watch. One game and one game only. 10:30 at night, West Virginia at BYU. Make sure to tune in as West Virginia goes into Utah to get the shit kicked out of them. What do you think, Monty? What do you think? You guys have a chance here? I think your mic's off.
I muted, apparently. I think we stink. That's what I think. I think we stink.
You don't think you have a shot against BYU?
I don't know, bro. Aren't we I think we're 20 point underdogs or
that's really rude.
Are we playing this week though? I thought it was next week for some reason.
No, it's Friday, October 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah, West Virginia at BYU. Good luck to you in Provo. Yeah. All right. Saturday games. I'm looking at the early games, and I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan's always a little interesting. Illinois, Purdue's a little bit interesting. Not a whole lot I'm loving in the early games here. There are a few interesting matchups a little bit later in the day. So I think when I scroll through this, the one that really strikes my eye is a 3:30 game, Vanderbilt at Alabama. Alabama, fresh off of a win in Georgia. Like, they walked into Georgia and they beat the Bulldogs last week, and they're feeling pretty good about themselves. Vanderbilt has been playing spoiler, dude. Diego Pavia screwing teams up all year.
Great college QB.
And that's a team that's built to be. They're built to be a spoiler, week after week. Mm-hmm. And so this is a test. Could this be a letdown game in Tuscaloosa? That's one to watch. I mean, they should defeat Vanderbilt. What's the line on this? I'm sure they're big favorites.
Let's see.
They're 10.5 at home, which is not that much for them at home.
No. And I'll say, we haven't gone over tight ends yet, but it certainly might be a need for us. And Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt has a good case to be tight end 1 in this class.
We'll get to him when we get to tight ends, but it's a good game. I think if you're at home at 3:30 on a Saturday, I don't know why you would be, but it's going to be probably a beautiful day in the fall. But if you are, watch Vanderbilt, Alabama. I know that's what I'm going to be watching if I'm home.
Yeah. LT Overton.
Yeah. I mean, we just went over him. I think he's going to be an impact player there. Looking through the rest of those 3:30 games, I'm not seeing a lot.
A lot of buys this week.
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that are not playing. Texas Tech at Houston at 7:00 is kind of interesting. So Texas Tech has Bailey, who we did not go over, the edge rusher. And Houston is playing pretty well with Connor Wegman as the transfer quarterback there. So that might be interesting for a Texas game.
They also have who I'm blanking. There is, I think they may have another edge rusher. Let me check this. Texas Tech has
they have two.
Romello Height. He was at Georgia Tech, I believe, last year. Really athletic edge rusher.
He's having a good year so far.
Really good year. 91.2, sixth highest edge in the country. So good edge.
23% pass rush win rate on this kid. So yeah, they have a good, a lot like A&M's room actually in terms of like just talent from last year. Speaking of games going on at 7:00 though, the one that might be interesting for folks, always a fun game, is number 3 Miami at number 18 Florida State. That should be a good one. Miami, Miami has been dominant, and we just talked about their edge rusher, Rueben Bain, and their other edge rusher we didn't go over. Their defense has been outstanding this year. It was terrible last year, and Carson Beck has a little bit of a bounce back this year at quarterback. So they're a really good team. They're number 3 in the country. They're contenders to the title, legitimate contenders to the title this year. And Florida State's having a pretty good year with you talk about a good college quarterback. It doesn't get much better than Tommy Castellanos, right? As quarterback. That kid is a problem. And he's a lot of fun to watch. So that's that's my favorite 7:30 game. Going through the rest, there's not a whole lot. It's kind of a quiet day. I don't see a ton of great games here, but you can scroll through. But I think to me, the ones worth watching are Vanderbilt, Alabama in the midday, and then Miami, Florida State at 7:30.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Do we have anything else before we close this sucker out?
I don't think so. We made good time this episode.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're getting more efficient here. So so we have done interior O-line, offensive tackle, off-ball linebacker, edge, and running backs, right? So we are kind of plowing through. That's 5 position groups already. So we're moving right along. We're about like halfway there, and we're trying to keep this weekly to get through this. If we stay on schedule, we're going to be finished early this year with all the position groups, and it'll give us more time to do more in-depth analysis of some of these guys. We'll
get back here, have more than just the top 5. Get back into it. Some of the guys at the end of the year.
Exactly, but honestly, I think it's an intriguing class so far. I'm liking a lot of the prospects, even though this is not supposed to be a great draft class. There's some very interesting guys, and it's got to see where the Giants land to see how they're going to approach this. But there are some interesting guys, and with a quarterback already on the roster, now it really is like just take the best player. If you're unlucky enough to be in a position where you can potentially get a Downs or a Bain, just take them. Just take them and move on. That's how I look at it. But anyway, we will be back next week after the Giants' second win in a row in New Orleans. So actually, we'll be on one day before we go 3-3 against the Eagles. So that's our plan. That's our plan.
And then playoffs are back on.
And we're back in the playoffs after that. Remember to like the episode if you haven't done so already. Please subscribe to the show if you have not done so already. We're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the major streaming services. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. You can reach us at He's a Giant Pod. You can reach me at Queens_guy. Reach Monty at MONTECRI5TO. Thank you all for attending the show again. Thank you guys for always being here as we plow through these prospects. We will see you next Wednesday. And until then, go Giants.
Go Giants.